An old video of Jada Pinkett Smith degrading her husband Will Smith on Instagram has now resurfaced, and many people believe that this explains not only the Oscars slap, but also their toxic relationship. Back in 2020, without anyone's consent, we all learned about the word entanglement, and from there we also learned way too much about Will and Jada's relationship. Jada Pinkett Smith confirmed that she was romantically involved with singer August Alsina during an episode of her Facebook Watch show called Red Table Talk. She spoke openly about this while sitting across from her husband Will Smith.
Would you say she has been instrumental in you and I redefining our relationship?
I would say don't just start filming me without asking me.
Oh my goodness.
If you could film me.
The thing that really baffled people was that she did this with her son's friend. Jaden is the one that introduced August to the house, and then he went and got himself entangled with his friend's mom. During the one-on-one interview with Will, Jada explained that she and August had become good friends, but I guess he missed the memo on keeping things hush-hush. August then came out and claimed that he and Jada had started a relationship while she was married and Will had given him permission, which is completely false and only blew this whole thing up in the press even more. The couple also revealed in their conversation that they had briefly separated when Jada began seeing August, but with that behind them, they were apparently now committed to one another. Fast forward to 2022 and the pair seemed to be doing much better. They even attended the Oscars together. But alas, it was perhaps far too early for them to be making public appearances together. We posted this video on our Instagram page, and one person believes that Will was actually acting in that earlier clip, but it really does seem like he is annoyed by Jada pestering him to record this video. But I would be remiss if I didn't offer up that perspective so you at least can make up your own mind about this whole situation. In the comment section they said, "Bro, he's being sarcastic. Since when he first started to get into social media and everyone was making a big deal about his tweets and videos, he's saying to not film him to playfully act like he's big time now or whatever. They're sarcastically playing with each other." Now the connection to the Oscar slap might be one of the biggest reaches out there, but let's break it down to see if we can link this video to that incident. If that video is genuine and not acting, then it shows that Jada has a lot of control over Will. But that's not enough to explain why Will would just get up to defend her so quickly. So let's dive in a little deeper. During an episode of Red Table Talk, first broadcasted on October 29, 2018, Will opened up to his family about what he deemed to be the lowest point of his life, which just so happened to coincide with Jada's 40th birthday. He had spent 3 years putting together a documentary for her to play at her birthday party. In the doc, he details her entire family history. It featured hidden tapes of her grandmother that had never been seen before, and he even tracked down a descendant of the White family who once owned Pinkett Smith's ancestors. He even got Mary J. Blige to perform at her birthday party. He described himself looking at Jada like the little boy that wants mommy to say everything was wonderful, but he didn't realize she was having a really difficult emotional time. After they got back to their room with Willow there as well, Will recalled Jada telling him, "That was the most disgusting display of ego I have ever seen in my life." They then began to fight so much that a 10-year-old Willow emerged crying with her hands over her ears begging them to stop. A letter that Willow supposedly wrote as a child then also re-emerged, and it was addressed to Tupac Shakur. In the letter she writes, "Dear Tupac, I know you are alive someplace. I think that my mommy really misses you. Can you please come back? Can you please come back so mommy and me can be happy? I wish you were here, I really do. Love, Willow." So now let's go to the Oscars, where Chris Rock makes a joke targeted at the woman Will is so desperately trying to please. He truly looks at her like he's protecting his own mother, which makes it 10 times harder to leave that relationship when it's just not working. Remember, Will laughed at the G.I. Jane joke, then turned to see a displeased Jada, and then acted immediately because he assumed that's what mommy wanted him to do.
Right now, did you hear that Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk has just been cancelled? Yeah, that's right. Yesterday, it was announced that Meta would be cancelling the online talk show featuring Jada, her daughter Willow, and her mother Adrienne. Red Table Talk was one of the last Facebook Watch originals. According to Deadline, the series producer Westbrook is shopping the series elsewhere. They're said to be looking for a new distributor now that the Facebook Watch deal is done. So why did it get shut down? Well, to put it simply, right now Meta is going through a ton of layoffs within the company. They're trying to drastically cut costs, which is why they're getting rid of the Facebook Watch originals. In fact, Meta is cutting 10,000 jobs across the company, and they laid off 11,000 staffers at the end of last year. Mina Lefebvre, the head of development and programming at Facebook Watch, also exited the company in the most recent round of layoffs, and there's only going to be more shakeups at Meta in the next couple of weeks. Despite the backlash, Red Table Talk Talk was actually doing pretty well. The series had 11 million followers on Facebook, and it had an active discussion group with 600,000 members. Since its premiere in 2018, it became Facebook Watch's most successful program. It even landed a Daytime Emmy nomination. And we know that the show was unique for a few reasons. Because it was hosted by 3 generations of women, the conversations felt honest and real. Jada, Willow, and Adrienne were not just colleagues or friends, they were actually family. The show was filmed inside their home, which instantly made the discussion feel more intimate. Since there was no live audience, background music, or bright lights, its simplicity made it feel more authentic. That really set the mood for fascinating discussions about powerful topics. Some of these would be considered way too controversial or sensitive for other talk shows, so the women often talked about taboo subjects. Everything like privilege and mental health would be up for discussion. They also had no problem talking about the hardships of marriage and other very personal issues that they had within their family. Among the most memorable episodes of Red Table Talk was Jada's chat with her husband Will Smith in July of 2020. This is when she confessed to her romantic entanglement with singer August Alsina and revealed the reality of her marriage. Quote, "We decided we were going to separate for a period of time, and you go figure out how to make yourself happy, and I'll figure out how to make myself happy." Jada explained that August made her feel special because of what was lacking in her relationship with Will, and that clip quickly went viral. It brought a whole lot of attention to the show. It's also worth noting that Red Table Talk received a ton of backlash because people felt that it facilitated a safe space for stars to publicly address scandals in a way that sort of absolved them of any criticism. After all, Jada, Willow, and Adrienne would not really challenge their guests about things that they were saying. They didn't really ask those hard-hitting questions that people wanted to hear. One example of this was when Jordyn Woods came on to talk about the cheating scandal between her and Tristan Thompson. There was also an episode where Olivia Jade came on to talk about her involvement in the infamous US college admissions scandal. But she used the Red Table Talk as an opportunity to defend herself, knowing that the ladies wouldn't really be too harsh on her. So the fact that they were all very supportive and understanding sometimes backfired on them, but they did show a lot of genuine empathy and a desire to learn more. So you can't really fault them for that. Yes, they did cover a ton of celebrity scandals, and most people can agree that made for some great TV. It also brought in a huge amount of publicity, as some episodes got over 30 million views. In a profile for the card, Jada said that Red Table Talk was a way for her to revitalize her career after she turned 40, which is the age that a lot of actresses start to struggle finding their place in Hollywood. In her memoir, she explained that she went through something of a crisis at the age of 40, and she was forced to make excruciating choices to redefine her life in every way. These days, at 51 years old, her career is still evolving. She's currently producing a new miniseries for Netflix called Queen Cleopatra. This is going to be her second entry in the series about various African queens. The trailer dropped recently, and it's already shaping up to be one of the most talked about shows of the year. So regardless of what happens to Red Table Talk, Jada's career is still thriving.
Number 10, the narcotics. Many fans were surprised to learn about Jada's struggles with narcotics and sobriety that could have possibly ended her career back in the 90s. She admitted on an episode of Red Table Talk that at one point in her life she was drinking it like it was Kool-Aid, saying, "I could drink almost anybody under the table." She explained how it only got worse with her move to Hollywood. She told her audience how she was doing a cocktail of illegal narcotics, saying, "I wasn't doing things that I thought were addictive." She even went on to reveal, "Drinking red wine for me was like drinking glasses of water, because I'm used to that hard hit. Let me tell you, I was having a little ball." Considering herself as a big weekend party girl, she has since admitted that her substance use was most likely the result of her mental health issues. She recalls this time in her life by saying, "In my depression, using narcotics, drinking a whole lot, and smoking a bunch, just trying to find some peace of mind." But it wasn't until an incident on the set of The Nutty Professor that she realized she had to turn it all around. She explained, "I went to work on narcotics and it was just a bad bunch, and I told everyone that I must have had old medications, and that was the last time." Though not so embarrassing, some worried that she has perhaps been making light of addiction when she referred to it as having a ball. Luckily, it has been reported that she's fully recovered, but fans still worry for future relapses. Number 9, Scientology. Both Jada and Will have tried to insist they aren't involved in Scientology, but there have definitely been a few connections that have made us question that. Leah Remini, who is famously an ex-Scientologist, has claimed that the family has ties to the religion. Leah told the Daily Beat in 2017, "I know Jada's in. She's been in Scientology a long time." Going on to say, "I never saw Will there, but I saw Jada at the Celebrity Center." Scientology has long had a problem with controversy. Leah has claimed in the past that the whole thing is just a money grab from the founder L. Ron Hubbard. She shared, shared, "When you reach the top, you will be told that God is a lie, and there are more levels ahead that will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. There is no end to Scientology." A few Hollywood actors advocate for the religion, whereas others deem the whole thing as being very destructive. Some people even called it a dangerous cult, and it definitely has been an issue for debate regarding the celebrities that do have connections to the church. Leah even revealed that the Smiths reportedly even founded a school based around the religion, but it has since been shut down. The school was called the New Village Leadership Academy, and it opened in 2008 before shutting down just 5 years later. One of the school's staff confirms that they were using Hubbard's books in their teaching. Supposedly they also had posters of him around the school. The teacher claimed, "I mean, it was totally Scientology. There was no question." Because of all these speculations, Leah was invited to Jada's show Red Table Talk back in 2018. Jada then said, "My grandmother was like, you're going to learn all the religions, and then you have to decide which one you want to practice." She went on to say, "I always took the position that I'm here at Scientology Center to learn what I want to learn, but I have no interest in being a Scientologist." Because of this, it left some viewers believing that she was just caught in a lie. Number 8. Parenting style. Jada and Will have 2 kids, Jaden and Willow, who are no strangers to the spotlight. But with this, it causes some fans to do a double take at their parenting style. Their parenting has received some backlash throughout the years, but it was really the 2014 photo that pushed critics overboard. Photos were posted online with Willow with 20-year-old Moses Eris laying in bed. When TMZ asked her why she would allow this, she responded by saying, "There's nothing about the photo or that situation." When parenting came up again during an interview with Us Weekly, she said, "I'm not a conventional parent, which I take a lot of pride in." Number 7. The cheating scandal. During her decades-long marriage with Will, it seems that someone else caught her eye as well, the singer August Alsina. The scandal that she initially denied before, she finally came clean with during a very cringy moment. During the 2020 interview, August claims that he and Jada had been romantically involved in the past, even going on to say that Will gave them his blessing, which has never been proven. He said during the interview, "I totally gave myself to that relationship for years of my life, and I truly and really deeply love and have a ton of love for her, and gave my whole self to it." He revealed that before her, he had never truly been in love before. When this hit the news, Jada initially denied it, but then later admitted that yes, it did happen, but only during a separation from Will. Saying on Red Table Talk, "We were over. From there, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement with August." Going on to say, "I just wanted to feel good. It had been so long since I felt good." Though many times things like this would completely break a marriage, Will and Jada have said that it only has strengthened it. An insider told the press, "Will and Jada at the end of the day are like a normal couple who just happen to be glorified because they're famous. They have fought, but at the end of the day they do love each other." Regardless, with Jada being so open about this, I can't imagine it could have been fun for her kids. Number 6. The Snoop Dogg moment. An interview that many have been describing as frustrating is the Red Table Talk with Jada and Snoop Dogg. Previously, Snoop slammed the CBS This Morning presenter Gayle King when she referred to Kobe Bryant's essay charge in the wake of his death. Snoop took to his Instagram and said, "Gayle King, you were out of pocket for that. What do you gain from that?" Going on to say, "We expect more from you, Gayle. Don't you hang out with Oprah? Why are you attacking us? We're your people. How dare you tarnish my homeboy's reputation? Respect the family and back off." After this, he made an appearance on Red Table Talk where Jada told him his remarks were triggering to her as a black woman because he was insulting other black women. She said at the time, "It felt like not only were you talking to Gayle, but you were talking to me." However, because of this interview, Snoop's fans started to come for Jada. They claimed that she was reaching and faking outrage just for her show. One Twitter user wrote, "Jada Smith, stop it. Don't make this a woman's thing, because it's not. It's a Gayle King thing. Asking a wrong question at a wrong time. It's about timing." Another added, "Jada, do we have to cancel you too?" Number 5. Will's slap. An awkward moment all around is Will Smith slapping Chris Rock over a joke made over Jada's shaved head. But when a few people assumed Jada would stand by her husband regardless of this incident, she did go the other way. A source close to the star said, "It was in the heat of the moment and it was him overreacting. He knows that, she knows that, and they agreed that he overreacted." She confirmed she wasn't angry, but she wishes he didn't do it, which of course is understandable, but some fans are questioning this. An Instagram user uploaded a different angle of the slap, which appears to show that Jada is actually laughing after the slap. One viewer commented, "She laughs after he was slapped? Are you serious?" Another added, "Definitely didn't see the laughing side of her during this." So could it be that maybe Jada likes the drama a little bit more than she's letting on? Number 4. Embarrassing Will. Fans of the Smith family have been noticing something interesting about Jada, and it's that many think she is continuously trying to embarrass her husband. The moment that was pretty cringy on Jada's part is when, during an Instagram live, she begins talking about her and Will's marriage counselor, before suddenly turning the camera towards him to get his opinion. She asked him, "Would you say that she has been instrumental in you and I redefining our relationship?" He answers back, "I would say just don't start filming without asking me if you could." Jada then continues to record him to get an answer until Will turns away and continuously asks her to stop. Definitely an awkward moment. She also really threw her husband under the bus during an episode of Red Table Talk when she starts discussing intimacy with Gwyneth Paltrow. Jada brings up her and Will's love life and shares some pretty personal details. She even talked about how she used to expect him to read her mind. One of the worst Jada attacks on Will, though, would have to be the strange reaction to Will's surprise party for her, which took him 3 years to plan. When Jada turned 37, Will hired a team to begin planning her massive 40th birthday party. When talking about the party, he said, "It was going to be the thing that lifted her out of this midlife crisis. It was going to be my deepest, most beautiful proclamation of love." But her reaction was just not what he had hoped. When recalling what Jada thought of the party, he said, "She told me that the party was the biggest, most ridiculous display of my ego." Yikes. One fan commented on this and wrote, "Treat her like a celebrity and she'll treat you like a fan." Another added, "Imagine being married to someone that spent literally years planning a special event for you, and instead of gratitude, you say it's to feed their ego." Number 3, marriage. Jada met Will during her audition for the role of his character's girlfriend on the show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Though she didn't end up getting the part, it's reported that she made quite the impression on the star, who was married to another woman at the time. Will revealed later that not long after meeting Jada, he went out for dinner with his wife and realized he had married the wrong woman. After 2 years of dating, Jada found out that she was pregnant with their first child, Jaden, and pretty quickly after, Will proposed with a $250,000 engagement ring. But it appears that Jada wasn't super excited about her upcoming marriage. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jada shared that she never really wanted to get married, but her mom was putting on the pressure since she was young and pregnant. Jada's mom, Adrienne, revealed her worry that since she was an only child, she may never get the opportunity to see her get married. In the end, of course, she decided to go through with the wedding, but made it clear to Will that she did not want a typical ceremony. Will later admitted in his memoir that regardless of this, he did pressure her into having a traditional ceremony. When recalling her wedding day, Jada shares, "I was so upset that I had to have a wedding. I cried the whole way down the aisle." Though getting cold feet is pretty typical when making such a big commitment, a wedding therapist believes that there could be a little bit more to it. The therapist, Landis, told Insider that bad nerves can indicate that the person isn't ready for marriage, or that they could be marrying the wrong person. The question on fans' mind is, why marry someone after talking so openly about how upset you were about the whole thing? Number 2, dating while married. Will and Jada have been married for decades, but was the start of their relationship a little more shady than they usually let on. When the two started dating, Will was actually still with his ex-wife at the time. When Jada's mothers discussed this, she revealed, "I think initially when Will first called you, he was married or he was just separated, and I was like, he's not available to you." The Orst hadn't happened yet. Later she explained that she didn't understand divorce, and talking to Will's ex-wife on the show, she says that when looking back, she probably should have backed off. At the time, she told his ex that she takes responsibility and said, "When I think back to where I was, some of my inconsideration just in regards to your unwinding marriage and me trying to get in there." Going on to say it apparently feels wrong now. Definitely a bit shady on both Will and Jada's part for this one. And at number 1, we have her celebrity feuds. Jada has been known to have various feuds with her fellow celebrities over the years, leaving a few of her peers to believe if she can actually be just overly petty. One feud in particular occurred with Gabrielle Union. When Jada spoke with Gabrielle, she said during Red Table Talk, "Gabrielle and I were never really girlfriends. We were great associates." Going on to say that dissolved, and for 17 years we haven't really spoken. A controversial moment for Jada happened when she decided to end the feud on her show, making many viewers believe that she is more about the views than friendship. Gabrielle later admitted that she didn't know why Jada was ever mad at her in the first place. Could this just be a case of stirring up drama for good content?
And at number 10, Jaden Smith. Celebrities are now reacting to Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars, and we've got everything you need to know. After Chris made that joke about Jada Pinkett Smith that caused Will to get him out of his seat and slap him, you can see the visible confusion on everyone's face. Some people gasped while others applauded him, and one of those people that are standing strong on Will's side though through all of this is his son Jaden. Although several other high-profile celebrities are also reacting to the news as well. In response to the news though, Jaden Smith tweeted, "And that's how we do it." In at number 9, Liam Payne. Liam Payne also was in attendance for the Oscars when this happened and was quoted by Good Morning Britain as saying, I believe whatever he felt that he did, he had the right to do. I had to leave my chair. I'll be honest with you, it cut me really deep. He then went on to say, I also felt like there was 3 losers in one fight. It's a very sad thing, but there was a powerful moment for me to sit and watch one of the world's best emoters speak from the heart, and I would rather take away the beauty from the situation than take the pain. But I had to leave my chair. I'll be honest with you, it cut me really deep. And at number 8, the Academy. In response to what took place, the Academy tweeted, "The Academy does not condone violence of any form. Tonight we are delighted to celebrate our 94th Academy Award winners who deserve this moment of recognition from their peers and movie lovers around the world." And as it turns out, this situation was much deeper than it had appeared. You see, this wasn't the first time that Chris Rock had made fun of the Smith family. Back in 2016, the comedian hosted the Academy Awards where both Will and Jada were in attendance. Rock made fun of Jada publicly, saying that she was going to be boycotting the show after another year of all-white acting nominees. At the time, he said, "Jada said she's not coming. I was like, isn't she on a TV show? Jada's gonna boycott the Oscars? Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited." Coming in number 7, Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj was another person defending Will in several tweets and said, "I love Chris Rock. I don't think he would have made that joke had he known what Jada recently shared, but between him and the whole team at the Oscars, you mean to tell me not one of y'all heard this woman just share this heartbreaking story? Hashtag come on son." Adding in another tweet, "You just got to witness in real time what happens in a man's soul when he looks over to the woman he loves and sees her holding back tears from a little joke at her expense. This is what any and every real man feels in that instant. While y'all seeing the joke, he's seeing her pain." In at number 6, Kathy Griffin. Comedian Kathy Griffin was another celebrity giving her 2 cents on the whole situation. She tweeted out in response to Will slapping Chris and said, "Let me tell you something, it's a very bad practice to walk up on stage and physically assault a comedian. Now we all have to worry about who wants to be the next Will Smith in comedy clubs and theaters." Although many people in her replies were quick to pull up that photo of her holding a ketchup-covered Donald Trump head as if to say that she condoned violence in some sense. Griffin made a valid point though. This will set an awful precedent for people feeling like they can just approach a comedian on stage if they don't like what's being said. In at number 5, Alec Baldwin. Most people understood why comedians would stand in solidarity with Chris Rock, but a lot of people expected actors to only get behind Will Smith and his unscrupulous actions. Taking to his private Twitter page, Alec Baldwin tweeted, "I'm not reading much about how or even if the producers attended to Chris, but I love you, Chris Rock, and I'm sorry the Oscars turned into the Jerry Springer show." Alec also needed to say something because a lot of people on Twitter were quick to draw comparisons between the Will Smith slap and what happened on the set of Rust. One person tweeted, "Don't worry about the Academy punishing Will Smith. If they do, it will either be for 2 weeks like Whoopi, 6 days like Jussie, or not at all like Alec Baldwin. Hollywood is totally immune from justice." Coming in number 4, The View. As one would assume, all of the daytime talk shows were going to be talking about the now infamous slap heard around the world. The View, however, had a mixed bag of reactions from their hosts. Sonny Hostin said, "I think Will was immature, I think he was childish and he was violent," with Whoopi Goldberg saying, "There will be consequences, I'm sure, but I don't think that's what they're going to do, particularly because Chris said, 'Listen, I'm not pressing any charges.'" Anna Navarro didn't mince her words though and said, "Hitting somebody is a crime of assault," while she called Rock's quip a lame joke, a joke in very poor taste. She believes the slap and the remark were not equivalent. While Joy Behar chose to speak on the impact that this will have on comedians everywhere. Behar remarked, "They want us comedians to be edgy, to go out there and say what everyone's thinking, and then they get mad." In at number 3, Jameela Jamil. Actress Jameela Jamil also had some thoughts about the 2022 Oscars incident that is making waves across the world, attached to a Malcolm X quote that says, "The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman." Jameela wrote in her tweet, "Will Smith said, 'Not today,' a man big enough to absolutely floor him, slapped him softly enough that Chris barely moved, because he made fun of his wife's alopecia on a world stage. Don't say hashtag protect black women for 2 years and then only condemn Will here. Come on." In at number 2, Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell is an American comedian, producer, actress, author, and television personality. She began her comedy career as a teenager and received her breakthrough on the television series Star Search in 1984. Her response to this incident, though, was that the Academy did not do enough after Will smacked Chris. In her tweet, she said, "So upsetting on every level. Bravo to Chris Rock for not eviscerating Will Smith, which he could do any day of the week. He walked away. Bravo from a sad display of toxic masculinity from a narcissistic madman." And last but certainly not least, at our number 1 spot, Will Smith. The main person that everyone wanted to hear a reaction from though was Will Smith himself. Yes, he sort of touched on what happened during his acceptance speech, but later on we got a full letter addressing the controversy. In response to how the world reacted to him slapping Chris Rock, Will said, "Violence in all of its forms is poisonous and destructive. My behavior at last night's Academy Awards was unacceptable and inexcusable. Jokes at my expense are a part of the job, but a joke about Jada's medical condition was too much for me to bear and I reacted emotionally. I would like to publicly apologize to you, Chris. I was out of line and I was wrong. I am embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be. There is no place for violence in a world of love and kindness. I would also like to apologize to the Academy, the producers of the show, all the attendees, and everyone watching around the world. I would like to apologize to the Williams family and my King Richard family. I deeply regret that my behavior has strained what has been an otherwise gorgeous journey for all of us. I am a work in progress, sincerely Will.
Alright, let's talk about all the insane backlash that's going on with Queen Cleopatra. Netflix's 4-episode docudrama was released on May the 10th, and it's since received a 2% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. At first, the show was rated 1% before it was bumped up, but its new score is still an unprecedented low in TV history. All this criticism stems from the casting of Adele James as Cleopatra, with many people saying that it was a misrepresentation and falsification of history. The Egyptian government then accused Netflix of misrepresenting the Queen, and an Egyptian lawyer filed a case to shut down the streaming service in Egypt. In response to the outrage, Adele James went on a podcast to defend the show. She explained that people have been focusing on the wrong things. She said, yes, we don't know where her mother was from or her paternal grandmother, but also the show is about so much more than the question mark over her race. She said, if you watch, it is a very small part of the conversation. Really, it's about the fullness of who this woman was, and she was a human being. She shouldn't be reduced to her race any more than I should or anybody should, but that hasn't stopped all these horrible reviews from flooding in. One critic described it as a patchy Game of Thrones cosplay interwoven with academics you've never even heard of. Another person wrote, it's not very good. Overall, it lacks context, personality, and a reason for being made. Characters had no depth, subpar acting, historians giving really low value comments, too much info crammed together without developing any meaningful scenes. Although we can assume a lot of people actually watched the show and just didn't like it, Queen Cleopatra was most likely the victim of something called review bombing, where a large group of people post negative reviews to harm production. But no matter why the show is being criticized, it's clear that most of it is coming from Egyptians. They called on Netflix to cancel the show, and they seem to be doing everything they can to try to get it shut down. As I mentioned before, an Egyptian lawyer even brought a lawsuit against them and called the series a crime. He accused Netflix of falsifying facts and demanded that all legal measures be taken against those responsible for the documentary. The complaint also called for an investigation into the matter and for Netflix to be blocked in Egypt. The case they are trying to make is that the show is attempting to distort the Egyptian identity. So why is this such a contentious issue? Well, the question of Cleopatra's race is something that has been heavily debated in recent years. It's widely believed that she is a descendant of a Macedonian Greek general who ruled over Egypt when it was part of Alexander the Great's empire. Historians also widely agree that Greek was her mother tongue, but the series director doesn't think it's that simple. Tina Gavari wrote a piece for Variety where she defended her decision to cast Adele James. She wrote, why do some people need Cleopatra to be white? Her proximity to whiteness seems to give her value, and for some Egyptians, it really seems to matter. After much hand-wringing and countless auditions, we found in Adele James an actor who could convey not only Cleopatra's beauty, but also her strength. She went on to say, what the historians can confirm is that it's more likely Cleopatra looked like Adele than Elizabeth Taylor ever did. Although Netflix has declined to comment on the casting choice, the producers of the series have also released their own statement. They said, her ethnicity is not the focus of Queen Cleopatra, but we did intentionally decide to depict her of mixed ethnicity to reflect theories about Cleopatra's possible Egyptian ancestry and the multicultural nature of ancient Egypt. The biopic is part of a documentary series from Jada Pinkett Smith that explores the lives of iconic African queens. The latest installment hopes to reassess Cleopatra's fascinating story in a brand new way. The official synopsis says, Cleopatra's heritage has been the subject of much academic debate, which has often been ignored by Hollywood. Now, our series reassesses this fascinating part of her story. In past depictions, the Egyptian queen has often been portrayed as overtly sexual, excessive, and corrupt, but this new documentary is going to show another side of her which hasn't been explored. Jada's series is apparently going to show her as a strategist, an intellect, and a commanding force of nature who fought to protect her kingdom. So will you be watching it?
For those of you who may not know, Jada ran a talk show for roughly 5 years called Red Table Talk. Unless you were glued to Facebook Watch, you probably missed this one. In 2018, Jada invited her mother Adrienne Banfield Norris and daughter Willow Smith to join her in an open conversation spanning 3 generations of women. Unfortunately, the series tended to drift into too much information territory, discussing topics between family that really should not be discussed with family. Another rough part of the series was that Jada would often bring in celebrity guests to also discuss these topics, as well as as confront any issues that there may have been between them. She even brought her husband Will on the air at one point to discuss the infidelity scandals that had plagued their entire relationship. One of the most uncomfortable interviews in the show's history, and that's saying something. It was decided in April of this year that Red Table Talk would be cancelled and removed from the platform. When you have a show that you not only starred in but created from top to bottom, it's 100% your fault when it's eventually cancelled. The show is currently looking for a new home in the world of streaming, but has yet to land on one. Thankfully. Number 9. Cleopatra. The ill-fated TV series Cleopatra hit the air this year and received some of the worst reviews in human history. The show, produced and narrated by Jada, was released on Netflix and it quickly became one of the most mocked properties on the platform. The series starred a black actress named Adele James in the role of the titular Egyptian, causing many fans to call the casting choice cultural appropriation. Ironically though, Cleopatra has almost always been played by a non-Egyptian actor, with Elizabeth Taylor being the most famous portrayal of all time. On top of the controversial casting choice, the overall show was horrible. Many complaints centered around the lazy dialogue, the terrible acting, and the historical inaccuracies, with a ton of the show being set in the wrong time period while claiming to be a historical series. Netflix had to deal with a lot of hardships thanks to the show, literally turning off the comments for the trailer due to the alarming amount of racially fueled and hostile commentary. The show sits at a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes and is unfortunately one of the few production gigs that Jada has under her belt. When a show that could have been great tanks hard, Hollywood tends to blame the person who made the thing. Number 8. The cheating scandals. For a long time now, Will and Jada have attempted to hide their various marriage misdeeds, but they've never truly been successful. While both were rumored to have been cheating on each other multiple times, it was Jada who was actually confirmed to be the cheater pumpkin eater. While rumors had been circulating that Will was romantically involved with his co-star Margot Robbie from Focus, those were quickly laid to rest. However, Jada was most certainly cheating on Will several times over the years, with her Hawthorne co-star Mark Anthony and musician August Alsina, and probably a few other people. The proof? Well, Will walked in on Jada and Mark getting busy, and Will was reduced to tears. While they were able to hide it at the time, the conversation that took place between herself and Will on Red Table Talk was quite revealing. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to cast someone who is known for causing trouble in my movie. Number 7. After Earth. In 2013, Jada helped to produce a film starring her husband Will and son Jaden Smith. Will Smith came up with the idea for After Earth while watching a science show on TV. And eventually that evolved into a science fiction story that takes place in the year 1000 AE, or 1000 years after the human race has left the planet because of pollution and global warming. The plot features a father and his teenage son who crash land on Earth. The teenager must save his injured father on what has become a hostile planet. Now, Smith developed the movie as a star vehicle for his 14-year-old son Jaden. The actor sold his post-apocalyptic vision to M. Night Shyamalan to direct, and this high-budget vanity project was a family affair, with Jaden, Will, Jada, and even her brother Caleb Pinkett being key members of the production. The $130 million Smith family affair hit the big screen in 2013 and was instantly met with harsh criticism, scoring 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics lambasted pretty much every single detail, including a plot that was generally regarded as boring and lifeless. Number 6. Her biases. When the Oscars So White controversy erupted in 2016, Will and Jada were among the most vocal critics of the Academy. For the second year in a row, all 20 of the actors nominated in the lead and supporting roles category were white, something that had not happened since 1998. Jada released a much publicized video explaining why she was boycotting the Oscars that year, hoping to shine a spotlight on institutional racism. However, the majority of Hollywood did not appreciate the things that she was saying about them, not to mention, during an episode of her own talk show, the actress confessed that she has a tendency to judge others based on their race, revealing she specifically had a problem with white blonde women. According to Jada herself, blonde hair on a woman just kinda sets her off, and she's had to hold herself back a few times. She went on to reveal that she actually turned down several interviews over the years simply because the interviewer was a white blonde lady. She claims that her bias is due to her history of being bullied by women with those physical traits growing up. Regardless of why she hates them, blonde white women make up a lot of Hollywood these days, so it makes sense that Jada would be slapped on the do not hire list. Number 5. neglectful parent. Rumors have been flying around for years that Willow and Jaden Smith basically raised themselves. At a young age, Jaden was on track to become an A-list actor after starring in the 2008 remake of the classic Karate Kid movie alongside martial arts and opera legend Jackie Chan. But he later shifted his focus to a more entrepreneurial side of things, developing his own fashion brand, which has gotten him a lot of success. His sister Willow opted to stick with her creative roots, however, and she made quite a name for herself in the hip-hop genre. Unfortunately, their independent behavior comes from a place of neglect. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jaden confronted his parents, calling them out on their terrible parenting skills. With both being so busy in their careers, they were never home to care for the youngsters. Jaden and Willow recounted spending most of their childhood with nannies and teachers, only seeing their parents when they were working with them on projects or in between things, like when Jaden and Will were working together in the pursuit of happiness. Willow has backed up her brother's story, claiming that the parenting skills forced them to become mentally mature at a very young age, which may play some part in Jaden being so successful at 24. Despite appearing to be a happy family unit in the media, the reality is that Jaden and Willow have been raising themselves for a very long time, just making Jada look even worse than she already was. Number 4. The Nutty Professor. The Nutty Professor is a comedy classic from the legendary performer Eddie Murphy, based on a film from 1963 of the same name starring Jerry Lewis as the leading man. In the 1996 remake, Jada Pinkett Smith portrayed Eddie's love interest Carla Purdy, and despite the film being a lighthearted romp sharing the message of self-love, people hated her in that role. Of all the actors on the screen, Jada is the most out of place. While there wasn't a slew of massive A-listers on command, the cast involved did a great job and everyone had their own little memorable moments. However, Jada is just kinda there. Jada's acting career has been limited over the years, and for good reason. Especially when you put her next to a comedy legend like Eddie frickin' Murphy. That's like putting Jim Carrey and a tired sloth in a room together and telling them to have a rap battle. Jim Carrey wins every time. Her performance in the film was enough to make securing work in the following years difficult, but as you'll see, Hollywood gave her a second chance time and time again. Number 3. Gotham. Gotham is an underappreciated series from the world of DC set in Gotham City before Bruce Wayne even becomes Batman. We follow a young Jim Gordon as he deals with the criminals roaming Gotham streets. People like the Riddler, the Penguin, and of course Jada Pinkett Smith as mob boss Fish Mooney. Fish. DC is fantastic with names. The character acted as the frenemy to the Penguin, but whenever Jada was next to her co-star Robin Lord Taylor, she was outshined every time. In fact, she was outshined by everyone on the show. Her character was meant to be a scary bad guy that strikes fear into the hearts of those who encounter her, but instead, Jada delivered a monotone performance that the producers quickly noticed. By the end of season 3, Fish was written out of the story and left to rot on a dock. Number 2. Scream 2. Now, Scream 2 is not a bad movie. I'm just gonna start by saying that. The Scream franchise is considered to be one of the best horror series of all time. Ghostface is iconic, and so is Jada's only good scene in this movie, when she's taken out by Ghostface. In Scream 2, Jada Pinkett Smith plays one of the ill-fated teens, Maureen Evans. While this was actually one of her few decent performances over the years, spoiler alert, her character does not make it to the end of this movie. Oh wait, I already said that. Oops! She is taken out in a very graphic and public fashion. While watching the fictional Scream film in theaters, Jada cuddles up to who she thinks is her boyfriend, but it's actually just Ghostface in disguise. She gets repeatedly jabbed while the same thing is happening to a character on screen. While this was one of the better scenes in Scream's history, it was the only scene where Jada came across as a good actor. The argument can be made that most young actors just play themselves on screen, but sometimes it feels like Jada forgot that the cameras were even on. At number 1, she manipulates. Many things about Jada's personality made celebrities speculate that she may have a hidden evil personality deep inside of her. Well, the Oscar ceremony that took place in 2022 kind of proved that she has a silver tongue. After host Chris Rock made a joke about Jada's balding head, Will Smith initially laughed, but then he looks at Jada, who's seen rolling her eyes and giving him a look of disappointment. The look was enough to force Will's smile away and cause him to do a complete 180, taking the stage to defend his wife. Jada is 100% the reason that situation took place. Despite claiming that she can't make Will do anything, she does have the power to say, "Hey honey, I'm okay, you can leave Chris Rock alone." Instead, she just kinda sat back, watched, and laughed maniacally, so the only thing she's gonna be acting in anytime soon is a therapist's office.
Red Table Talk has returned for the first time since Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the 2022 Oscars. And it would be weird for the show to go on as normal without Jada addressing the situation with her husband. Today, let's take a look at what she had to say before the 5th season premiere. I'm your host for today's video, Lindsay Ivan. Hit that like button for me and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with the latest news stories. Now, let's get on with the video. The 5th season of Red Table Talk kicked off on Wednesday, April 20th, and opened with a message to the viewers. The message addressed what happened with Will Smith and Chris Rock at the Oscars, after Will publicly slapped him for making a joke about his wife's alopecia. The message read, and I quote, "Considering all that has happened in the last few weeks, the Smith family has been focusing on deep healing. Some of the discoveries around our healing will be shared at the table when the time calls." In a second slide, it read, and I quote, "The table will continue offering itself to powerful, inspiring, and healing testimonies like that of our incredibly impressive first guest. Thanks for joining us." After which Janelle Monáe appears on the show, where they came out as non-binary. They said, and I quote, "So I don't see myself as a woman solely. I feel all of my energy. I feel like God is so much bigger than he or the she. And if I am God, I am everything." They continued on saying they're now using they/them pronouns. Now, this whole episode of the show was filmed way before the whole Oscar drama, hence why there was no mention of it in the episode. Either way, the opening message makes it seem like eventually Jada will address her husband's actions. She just needs more time before she does so, which is fair. Everything happened so fast, and Will and the rest of the Smith family have all been under a lot of pressure and have been receiving a lot of negative attention lately. But this is a step for Jada. She has been relatively silent on the subject since it happened. Sadly, whether she wants to talk about it or not, it seems like she will probably have to publicly talk about the incident eventually. And of course, we will be here covering the story when she does.
Chris Rock has finally broken his silence on Will Smith slapping him at the Oscars. The comedian addressed the controversy at his sold-out show in Boston as part of his Ego Death tour. Like all of us, Chris said that he is still processing what happened last weekend. On top of Chris's reaction though, many new camera angles are coming out that show a different side to this story, and I think it's worth mentioning, but stick around to find out what Chris Rock's response was. For starters, footage that was seemingly filmed on a cell phone shows a reaction from Jada Pinkett Smith that the TV camera just didn't catch. I'm also trying to figure out what celebrity sat behind Lupita that could have recorded this. I think it was Jared Leto, but comment down below who you think recorded this video. In the new camera angle, we only see the back of Jada's head as she appears to lean forward and laugh when Chris Rock responds to the slap by saying, "Will Smith just smacked the out of me." She then can be seen looking over at her husband as he continues to rage on and yell at Rock to keep his wife's name out of his effing mouth. She didn't seem upset though, that's the main point here. She actually appeared to monitor Chris's reaction when she turned to face him after the slap, but also looked like she was clapping her hands and laughing for a second time after he described what just happened as the greatest night in the history of television. It's still unclear who filmed and then shared the footage, but it has since gone viral on Twitter. Jada also gave a brief reaction to the incident on Instagram when she posted this image that said, "This is a season for healing and I'm here for it." And Chris Rock's brother also took to Twitter to clear up any rumors that Will and Chris had reconciled. Right after the event, there were people saying that Diddy claimed Chris and Will made up that night, but apparently that never happened. In response to someone saying, "So Diddy was lying when he said Chris and Will made up that night and are good now?" Tony simply replied, "Yep." And the Academy also issued a direct apology to Chris Rock and admitted that they could have handled the situation better. As per a statement to Deadline, a spokesperson said, "The Board of Governors today initiated disciplinary proceedings against Mr. Smith for violations of the Academy's standard of conduct, including inappropriate physical contact, abusive or threatening behavior, and compromising the integrity of the Academy." They continue by saying, "Consistent with the Academy standards of conduct as well as California law, Mr. Smith is being provided at least 15 days notice of a vote regarding his violations and sanctions and the opportunity to be heard beforehand by means of a written response. At the next board meeting on April 18th, the Academy may take any disciplinary action which may include suspension, expulsion, or other sanctions permitted by the bylaws and standards of conduct." adding, "Mr. Smith's actions at the 94th Oscars were a deeply shocking, traumatic event to witness in person and on television. Mr. Rock, we apologize to you for what you experienced on our stage and thank you for your resilience in that moment. We also apologize to our nominees, guests, and viewers for what transpired during what should have been a celebratory event. Things unfolded in a way that we could not have anticipated. While we would like to clarify that Mr. Smith was asked to leave the ceremony and refused, we also recognize we could have handled the situation differently." As Chris Rock made his first public appearance for his sold-out show in Boston, the front two rows actually gave him a standing ovation when he came out on stage. The 57-year-old comedian performed at the Wilbur Theater and opened by saying to the crowd, "So, how was your weekend?" clearly alluding to the incident on everyone's mind. After the crowd sat back down, he continued by saying with tears in his eyes, "Let me be all misty and I don't have a bunch of to say about that." He then added, "I had written a whole show before this weekend. I'm still processing what happened, so at some point I'll talk about that. It'll be serious. It'll be funny, but right now I'm gonna tell some jokes." He also confirmed that he had not spoken to anyone despite what you may have heard. Hailey Bieber is now getting backlash for her response to the Oscars 2022 Will Smith slapping of Chris Rock. Yesterday we saw Zoe Kravitz get cancelled for her thoughts on the matter along with Judd Apatow and many more celebrities. The Will Smith fandom seems to be out in full force and they are attacking anyone who believes that Will was wrong for what he did. But stick around to find out why Hailey Bieber is getting so much hate right now. To remind you, Zoe Kravitz in two separate posts threw some shade at Will Smith. In her first caption she wrote, "Here's a picture of my dress at the award show where we are apparently attacking people on stage now." Then in another post she wrote in the caption, "And here is a picture of my dress at the party after the award show where we are apparently screaming profanities and attacking people on stage now." Now she didn't mention anyone by name, but everyone knew exactly who she was talking about. And because of this take, everyone that was a fan of the Smith family decided to expose Zoe Kravitz on Twitter. I mean, the cancellation of Zoe happened immediately. One person kicked off the cancellation by quoting Zoe and calling her a predator for what she said previously about Jaden Smith. In the screen cap posted to Twitter, Zoe apparently said, "There were moments that I was hanging out with Jaden and thinking, I can't believe you're 14. I have to check myself. Like what I say to you. He has so much personality and so much swag. He is so much cooler than I am and he's so handsome. I was like, when you're older, you know, we'll hang out. Nope, that's inappropriate. You're 14. With another person adding, "Why was Zoe Kravitz at 26 years old attracted to 16-year-old Jaden Smith? The F is wrong with her." And attached to that tweet was a video from a red carpet interview where Zoe had gushed that she had brought a then 16-year-old Jaden to the award show as her date. Other people also took issue with her supporting the ever so problematic Alexander Wang, as well as dating Ezra Miller when they were only 17 or 18 and she was in her 20s. Now Hailey Bieber is also getting flack for showing support to someone that the internet recently deemed problematic. Apparently after liking Zoe's Instagram posts that were taking shots at Will Smith because he slapped Chris Rock, people have begun to turn on Hailey. The original post was deleted, which kicked off Hailey's cancellation on Twitter, but someone had screen capped what this Twitter user wrote about her upon seeing that she had simply liked Zoe's post. In the since deleted tweet they said, "Your husband hates you, you're jobless, your brain is rotting, you're barren, you're a child, your uncle is a your dad is bankrupt, and your friends are always laughing at you behind your back at Hailey Bieber." And following that, people were quick to encourage the user behind this tweet, like this one user who said, "Hailey Bieber liked Zoe Kravitz's post and the caption was basically defending Chris Rock and random non-famous homegirl bodied Hailey for liking the post." On top of that, many people started tweeting out receipts of Justin treating Hailey poorly. Another user tweeted along with a video of Justin closing the car door on Hailey and said, "Hailey Bieber liking that Zoe Kravitz post like her husband doesn't treat her like this." Then in a separate tweet they said, "I'd be mad too seeing another man defend his wife knowing mine slams doors in my face." Then on top of all of that, things got really serious when people started posting older screenshots that outed Hailey as a racist. In their tweet, the user posted several screenshots of tweets from Hailey and said, "I was showing my sister why I'm laughing about Hailey Bieber and Alec Baldwin putting their input in the whole Will Smith Chris Rock debacle. Like a racist and a should be the last people talking." According to the Los Angeles Police Department, they were prepared to arrest Will Smith for battery right after he slapped Chris Rock. However, as we all know, that never actually transpired, so stick around to find out why. In a preview clip for an upcoming interview on Good Morning America, Oscars producer Will Packer claimed that the LAPD told Chris Rock that they would be happy to remove Will Smith from the audience and arrest him for what just happened. Packer recalled them saying to Chris, "We will go get him. We are prepared to get him right now. You can press charges. We can arrest him." Will Packer went on to say that Rock was very dismissive towards the police though, but he kept telling Chris to just hear the police out before making a final decision. The producer went on to say, "They were laying out the options, and as they were talking, Chris was being very dismissive of those options. He was like, 'No, I'm fine.' He was like, 'No, no, no.'" The Academy also issued a direct apology to Chris Rock and admitted that they could have handled the situation better. As per a statement to Deadline.com, a spokesperson said, "The Board of Governors today initiated disciplinary proceedings against Mr. Smith for violations of the Academy's standards of conduct, including inappropriate physical contact, or threatening behavior and compromising the integrity of the Academy." They continue by saying, "Consistent with the Academy's standard of conduct as well as California law, Mr. Smith is being provided at least 15 days notice of a vote regarding his violations and sanctions and the opportunity to be heard beforehand by means of a written response. At the next board meeting on April 18th, the Academy may take any disciplinary action which may include suspension, expulsion, or other sanctions permitted by the bylaws and standards of conduct." Adding, "Mr. Smith's actions at the 94th Oscars were a deeply shocking, traumatic event to witness in person and on television. Mr. Rock, we apologize to you for what you experienced on our stage and thank you for your resilience in that moment. We also apologize to our nominees, guests, and viewers for what transpired during what should have been a celebratory event. Things unfolded in a way that we could not have anticipated. While we would like to clarify that Mr. Smith was asked to leave the ceremony and refused, we also recognize we could have handled the situation differently. Ultimately, the real reason that the police did not immediately arrest Will Smith is because Chris declined to press any charges. However, the police did say in a statement on Sunday that if the involved party desires a police report at a later date, LAPD will be available to complete an investigative report. A source close to Will Smith also confirmed to the Sun newspaper that he and his lawyer are going to be writing to the Academy to plead his case in an upcoming hearing. The source goes on to say, "Things are hanging in the balance. He will write an official letter to apologize and effectively beg for their forgiveness. He is also expected to hold a call with show bosses in the next 24 hours. April 18th is D-Day though. He will find out if he still has an Oscar and quite possibly a career." What's interesting though is that the more I read about the situation, the more confused I get. You see, Will Packer claimed that Chris had spoken with police and declined, but then an insider told the New York Post, no one ever asked Chris if Will should leave. They never consulted him. It was the Oscars producer Will Packer who made the final decision to let Will stay. The witnesses then claimed that Packer actually walked up to Will and said, "We do not want you to leave." So all of this stuff that you're hearing now from the Academy about doing their best to make him leave is a load of BS. They're only doing that because they saw how the public reacted to Will not being asked to leave. In that moment though, they were as fake as Hollywood gets and tried to make sure that he could stay for the remainder of the show. I doubt there were even any emotional outbursts from the Oscars president David Rubin and CEO Don Hudson like everyone had been reporting.
Alright, now what do you think about the Smiths? Will and Jada have already proven themselves to have a distinctive approach to parenting, but you'll never guess what that includes. Jaden Smith revealed his mom is the driving force behind their family's usage of psychedelics. The 24-year-old rapper was at the Psychedelic Science Conference in Denver this week, and he revealed that his mom was the one who introduced him to the substances. He said it was just her for a really long time, and eventually it just trickled and evolved and everyone found it in their own ways. Jaden claimed that using psychedelics helped him form stronger relationships with his sister and with his half-brother in a profound way. He said, "Siblings can argue so much and fight so much, and Lord knows me and my siblings have done so much of that in the past, but the level of love and empathy that I feel for them inside of the psychedelic experiences and outside of the experiences has been something that's profound and beautiful." Apparently the effects have been so powerful for the Smith family that Jaden claims he and his siblings were unable to work through these arguments. He said that it helped them open up their minds to get out of the old ways of thinking that got them into a lot of these fights in the first place. He says psychedelics makes room for you to work it out and massage it out until it's completely gone. While this might sound a little bizarre, Jaden has actually been very open about experimenting with substances over the years. In 2022, he talked about trying and said that he believes they helped him expand his consciousness. He said that the hallucinations that came from it even inspired his clothing collection called Trippy Summer. So he's obviously very open-minded about the whole thing. Still, this news that the whole family is partaking in this might be a little questionable. Jada admitted that when she was younger, she had some very real issues dealing with the addiction that came from substance misuse. She also acknowledged that she drank excessively and used all kinds of narcotics. She said, "For me, drinking red wine was like drinking a glass of water. I drank a lot in high school and then I went on to mix everything up." She recalls a time that she mixed a variety of substances that are a very dangerous combination when used together. She was on her talk show and she recounted before her mom and daughter that she was high functioning during the week and consumed almost no alcohol for several days during the week but spent her weekends at parties. Quote, "From Thursday to Monday morning it was non-stop. Things went on like this for a while until one episode changed everything forever. It was in 1996 during the filming of Nutty Professor that young Jada went went to work still high off one of her partying binges. She was in a very bad condition. She went on to say that she passed out on set and told everyone that it must have been expired medication, and that was the wake-up call that she needed. While looking back at that time, she sees it as a miracle. So after going through all of that, she might have decided that psychedelics are actually the way to go, considering that it doesn't have the same negative effects as stimulants or depressants. Even if you can understand that though, you can't deny that the Smiths have a very unusual parenting style, which has raised quite a few eyebrows over the years. In fact, Will and Jada faced backlash in April of 2013 when they revealed that they don't believe in punishing their kids. Will spoke to Metro UK and said, "We don't do punishment. The way that we deal with our kids is they are responsible for their lives. Our concept is, as young as possible, give them as much control over their lives as possible." And when talking about the concept of punishment, they believe that it just has too much of a negative quality. Basically, their whole parenting philosophy is that they don't believe in disciplining their kids. But criticism of their parenting style really exploded in 2014 when a 13-year-old Willow was photographed in bed with the 20-year-old actor laying next to her. The whole thing even led to an investigation by CPS. In an interview with BBC Radio a couple years later after that drama, Will actually admitted that he and Jada might have gone a little too far in their hands-off approach, and maybe they should have kept a tighter rein on Jaden and Willow. Regardless of whether you think the Smiths were wrong in their parenting or not, there's no denying that it's led to two wildly creative artists.
Starting off our list today at number 10, we have racial bias. So back in 2018, Jada would open up during an episode of her Red Table talk show, and in it, she would reveal what really triggers her when it comes to white women. During the episode, the actor then sit down with her mom and her daughter Willow, and she would speak about her relationship with white women and women of color. She would then reveal her surprising revelation of how she views the former. When she went on to say, "I think what crushes me specifically in my relationship with white women, the thing that really breaks my heart is that white women understand what it feels like to be oppressed." Later in the episode, Jada would then admit that she has a racial bias when it comes to white women with blonde hair, when she said, "I have to admit I'm guilty to a certain degree because I do have my own biases, specifically to blonde women. Blonde hair on white women just triggers me. I've had to catch myself." Jada would then try to explain that she only has these feelings towards blonde women because she was bullied by them in school, but I think as the interview went on, it all started to point out it was really just a sneak diss towards Margot Robbie because her husband Will over the years has become smitten with the actress, and it scares Jada to the core.
Number 9, the rushed marriage. Jada met Will during her audition for the role of his character's girlfriend on the show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Though she didn't end up getting the part, it's reported that she made quite the impression on the star, who was then married to another woman. Will revealed later that not long after meeting Jada, he went out for dinner with his wife and realized he had married the wrong woman. After 2 years of dating, Jada found out that she was pregnant with their first child, Jaden, and pretty quickly after, Will proposed, with a $250,000 engagement ring. But it appears that Jada wasn't initially super excited about her upcoming marriage. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jada shared that she never really wanted to get married, but her mom was putting the pressure on since she was young and pregnant. Jada's mom, Adrienne, revealed her worry that since she was an only child, she may never get the opportunity to see her get married. In the end, of course, she did decide to go through with it, but made it clear to Will that she did not want a typical ceremony. Will later admitted in his memoir that regardless of this, he did pressure her into having a very traditional wedding. When recalling her wedding day, Jada shares, "I was so upset that I had to have a wedding. I cried the whole way down the aisle. Though getting cold feet is pretty typical when making such a big commitment, a wedding therapist believes there could be a little bit more to it." The therapist, Landis, told Insider that bad nerves can indicate the person just isn't ready for marriage, or that they could even be marrying the wrong person. Will explain further in his memoir what it's like to marry someone who wasn't ready, saying this would be the first of many compromises Jada would have to make over the years that painfully negated her own values. Definitely a worrying thing to say, as in most cases, overlooking your own values can sometimes lead to a bit of resentment as time goes on. Are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.
Number 8, Scientology. Although Jada has tried to claim for years that she isn't a Scientologist, she has been connected to the church in the public eye for years. Even Lee Remini once told the Daily Beast in 2017, "I know Jada's in. She's been in Scientology for a long time," before noting that she even saw Jada at the Celebrity Center from time to time. She also revealed that Jada once even founded a school based on Scientology with her husband Will, and they even opened up the institution in one of their homes. With the school only lasting for 5 years before it closed, Jada faced much scrutiny over the school as teaching staff confirmed that they incorporated Scientology-affiliated study technology into their curriculum. Later, Jada would bring Lee on her Red Table Talk show so they could clear the air. Back in 2018, and during the show, the pair would go on to settle their dispute when Jada said, "My grandmother was like, you're gonna learn all the religions, and then you have to decide which one you want to practice." Jada then went on to explain that she only studied different religions as a curiosity by saying, "I always took the position that I'm here at the Scientology Center to learn what I want to learn, and I have no interest in being a Scientologist." But if that was true, then why is she still being caught hanging out with the head person at the church?
Number 7. The affair. During her decades-long relationship with Will, it seems that someone else caught her eye as well. The singer August Alsina. During a 2020 interview, August claimed that he and Jada have been romantically involved in the past, even going on to say that Will gave them his blessing. He said during the interview, "I totally gave myself to that relationship for years of my life, and I truly and really deeply love and have a ton of love for her, and I gave my full self to it." He revealed that before her, he had never truly been in love before. When this hit the news, Jada initially denied it, but then later admitted that yes, it did happen, but only during a separation from Will, saying on Red Table Talk, "We were over. From there, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement with August. Though many times things like this would completely break a marriage, Will and Jada have said that it only strengthened it." An insider told the press, "Will and Jada at the end of the day are like a normal couple who just happen to be glorified because they're famous. They have fought, but in the end of the day, they do love each other." It looks like this fling with August could have been the initial beginning of their open marriage. During an interview with GQ magazine, Will confirmed the non-monogamous relationship, saying, "We were both miserable and clearly something had to change." When asked why they decided against monogamy, he admitted, "Jada never believes in a conventional marriage. She grew up in a way that was very different from how I grew up." It looks like regardless if Will was on board or not, Jada put her foot down on this one.
Number 6. Bad parenting. With being an A-list celebrity, it means that majority of your life is in the public, and for Jada, that means her parenting skills have led her to be scrutinized by the public for how she chooses to handle certain situations with her kids, especially back in 2014 when online critics were quick to weigh in on pictures of Willow Smith and outraged Jada would then tell TMZ that there was nothing wrong about the picture or the situation and that the media was just putting their own biased opinions onto the situation. With being the more relaxed parent, it has caused her to even scrutinize Will's approach in an attempt to embarrass him, as she has even argued with her husband over certain parenting subjects, like when their son Jaden, who provoked a lot of backlash after he was pictured wearing a skirt. Jada would then take to her Red Table Talk show to call out Will by saying, "I remember Will calling me and being like, 'Have you talked about this with Jaden, him wearing a skirt?' And I said, yeah, I have. He's pretty happy about it. But for their kids' sake, she probably shouldn't be saying such hateful things about Will to change their view of him, especially when he's been a great father so far."
Number 5. Manipulation. In 2022, Jada was trending on Twitter for all the wrong reasons. After sharing her feelings on the infamous time at the Oscars when Will slapped Chris Rock, looks like she wasn't going to stand by her husband on this one. Despite saying she wasn't angry with her husband, she did admit that she wished he didn't do it. Though most of us wish she didn't do it as well, many fans believe that she was saying this as a gaslighting tactic. After sharing her feelings, one Twitter user wrote, "Jada is an abuser. She abuses Will Smith. She emasculates him so much that he ends up behaving like a child, slapping people and tarnishing his reputation to impress her." Going on to say, Will is a victim of abuse by a bully who bullies others. And others shared their worry for Will, saying, "She's very much a manipulator and a gaslighter. The way he breaks down saying love makes you do crazy things is a message of his needed escape." And other social media users claim to agree that as more and more news emerges of the star, it's clear who is in control of this relationship.
Number 4. Horrible acting. While Will Smith has gone on to become one of the world's best actors, Jada on the other hand doesn't really have anything special. And it makes you wonder why she's even booking gigs when she's not even talented. With Gotham turning out to be an amazing series, it's clear that the producers ended up picking the wrong character when it came to Fish Mooney, as Jada didn't bring her A game to the show. The way she just kept slipping between a Fox, posh British accent and a bad guy just came off a little too cheesy and unbearable to listen to. And just her overall portrayal of the character was so over the top and campy. The only good thing we saw come from her acting was when she didn't have to say a word in a scene and just sat there quietly. In the end, the show could have cut Mooney's character from all the scenes altogether, and it still would have made sense, and that's just really sad when it comes to someone's acting career.
Number 3, the narcotics. Many fans were surprised to learn about Jada's struggle with narcotics and sobriety that could possibly have ended her career back in the 90s. She admitted on an episode of Red Table Talk that at one point in her life she was drinking like it was Kool-Aid, saying, "I could drink almost anybody under the table." She went on to discuss how her heavy drinking really began as a teen. She explained how it only got worse when she moved to Hollywood. She told her audience how she was doing a cocktail of illegal narcotics, saying, "I wasn't doing things that I thought were addictive." Considering herself as a big weekend party girl, she has since admitted that her substance use was most likely a result of her mental health issues. She recalls this time in her life by saying, "In my depression, using narcotics, drinking a whole lot, you know, and smoking a bunch, just trying to find some peace of mind." But it wasn't until an incident on the set of The Nutty Professor that she realized she had to turn it all around. She explained, "I went to work on narcotics and it was a bad bunch. I passed out and I told everyone I must have had old medications. And that was the last time." Luckily, it has been reported she is fully recovered, but fans still worry for future relapses.
Number 2, Red Table Talk. So we all know Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk show tends to get a little controversial from time to time, especially when she brings on other celebrities to get into their business and call their actions out. And that's exactly what she did in 2020 to Snoop Dogg. So in the wake of Kobe's passing, Jada wasn't afraid to call out Snoop Dogg over his comments toward Gayle King and start a difficult conversation about misogyny. A conversation, I may add, could have simply just been done in person without it all being on camera. The whole mess started after Gayle mentioned a woman had accused Kobe of making unwanted advancements in the past. Snoop then posted a video on his Instagram page where he insulted King's appearance by telling her, "Back off B before we come get you." Jada then brought the rapper on her Red Table Talk show to clear the air when she tried to explain to him in a very manipulating way that when she heard the things he said about Gayle, she felt hurt on behalf of all women. Snoop Dogg then felt so embarrassed that he headed back to his Instagram and later apologized to King, and he even made an attempt to resolve their feud by telling Gayle, "I was raised better than that, so I would like to apologize to you publicly for the language that I used in calling you out of your name and just being disrespectful."
And finally, at number 1, we have the embarrassment. Regardless if she means it or not, it is speculated that Jada has embarrassed Will more times than not. One time in particular is when she shared some pretty intimate details on her romantic life with Will on her talk show. With guest star Gwyneth Paltrow, they discussed the importance of communication when it comes to sex. After Gwyneth revealed her intimate life is the best she's ever had, Jada quickly made a comparison to her long relationship with Will. Jada shared, "I think you expect your partner to know what you need, especially when it comes to the bedroom. It's like, if you love me, you know. You should read my mind, and that's a huge pitfall." This sparked a conversation on Twitter with many fans describing their relationship as messy, as well as dragging the star for revealing way too much about her marriage struggles with Will without Will being present. Others speculated that this could be Jada alluding to the fact that a healthy, intimate life in a long relationship is difficult to maintain. While all the speculation began circulating, Jada did defend herself by saying the two had never had an issue. She said on Twitter, "Only because I have time today, stop making up headlines. Watch for yourself. Will and I have never had an issue in the bedroom." Despite what she meant during the episode, many aren't convinced that she didn't try to embarrass her husband.
This year's 2022 Grammy Awards were hosted by Trevor Noah, who recently was the reason that Kanye West was banned from Instagram. Also, with fellow comedian Chris Rock getting slapped at the 2022 Oscars, everyone was waiting for Trevor to make some kind of a joke or reference to the incident. This was Trevor Noah's second consecutive year hosting the Grammys, and in his opening monologue he took a moment to throw some shade at Will Smith. But stick around to find out exactly what he said. Chris was introducing the award for Best Documentary when he turned his attention to the Smith family, who appeared to be front and center. Rock joked that he was looking forward to seeing Jada in G.I. Jane 2, which was a poorly timed joke at Jada's lack of hair. To explain the joke, G.I. Jane is a 1997 movie starring a bald Demi Moore as a soldier. Little did Chris know, Jada had been diagnosed with alopecia, which is an autoimmune condition characterized by rapid hair loss in the scalp, eyebrows, and eyelashes, for which treatments are very limited. In the clip, you can actually see that initially Will Smith actually laughs at the joke, but then when he notices that Jada is rolling her eyes and clearly displeased, he gets up to to defend his wife. Will then marches straight at Chris Rock and proceeds to slap him in the face. As Rock is stunned by this unscripted moment, he tries to explain that it was just a joke, although Will is fired up at this point and clearly did not care as he shouted twice during the live broadcast, "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth." A now stunned Chris Rock must finish presenting the award for Best Documentary, but before continuing he says, "That was the greatest night in the history of television." I'm sure he meant to say that was the greatest moment in the history of television, but hey, if you just got slapped in the face by Will Smith, you'd be a little out of sorts as well. Now, a lot of people were split on the internet about this. Some people were defending Will Smith, saying that he was just defending his wife, and they thought that Chris's joke was perhaps in poor taste. However, on the flip side of things, the other argument is that this should have never been handled live on air. Plus, words should not also equal violence. All this will do is make every comedian everywhere start joking about Jada because they know how much of a sore spot this is for Will Smith. Although Trevor Noah decided to keep things classy and instead make a joke in reference to what Will said, rather than make a joke about Jada herself. When addressing the controversial moment, Trevor Noah said, "We're going to be listening to music, we're going to be dancing, we're going to be singing, we're going to be keeping people's names out of our mouths, and we're going to be giving out awards all throughout the night." When Will Smith won Best Actor later in the Oscars ceremony, he apologized to the Academy and his fellow nominees. The following day, he also publicly apologized to Chris Rock on social media. He has since, though, resigned from the Academy amid the growing controversy.